just read ahead. Wait till you
Yeah.
get to the proud. They make
Poll
the poll.
shows Disney dislike reaches dangerous levels. Consumer approval is crashing for Mickey Mouse. Because this is basically the equivalent of Q rating, but for companies. Now, Q rating, that's how you measure how popular any given celebrity is,
Yes.
how likable they are. But you also have such popularity contests for companies. And here's the thing, there's a difference between an individual, especially an individual who is in politics, because there you have an upper limit to how popular you possibly can be. Because the moment that you enter the political fray as an individual, if you are some kind of spokesman or some kind of pundit, talking head, you will instantly be disliked by the half of the population that swings toward the other side of you. So that's fine. That's not fine for a company. For a company, you want as many as humanly possible to like you. You want to be able to appeal to customers across party lines. So a company needs a much, much higher approval than does any individual. And no one needs a higher approval than the biggest companies that actually rely on consumers to come to them to fork over their money, like someone that has parks. And Disney would be one of those. Now, the problem with Disney entering into this political fray is that they have politicized themselves, meaning that they now have a favorability rating that is far lower than that of many politicians. So if we read this story here, Rasmussen Reports has a reputation of accuracy and is reporting consumer reaction to the Walt Disney Company that has some gasping in surprise. I think if you think our modern political candidates are divisive or perceived as such, they're still not on par with where Disney has placed itself by weighing in on controversies. Perhaps the not so secret agenda was a bad idea after all, as we can see depicted here. Now we get to it. The political website 538, which ranks pollsters according to their own rubrics, gives Rasmussen Reports a -03 rating for accuracy, in which a negative number is excellent. Blah, 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 blah. But it gets worse. I'm just jumping a little bit ahead here. And the gist of it is that of course, everything is going bad financially, but what is even worse is that, Disney is more disliked than a politician. And we see that
Wow.
right here. Here we have a favorability comparison. Now, I've blown this up as much as we can on screen, but what we read here is the number of consumers that knew how they view a number of entities. Like, for instance, the number of respondents who view, say, Trump very favorably is 30%. The people who view Biden as very favorable is 22%. Disney, by contrast, is viewed very favorably by only 19%, meaning that Brandon himself is more popular than is the Disney company.
Well,
Now, if we,
either is more popular.
yeah, and then if we go to the other extreme, and because that was who sees them very favorably, so that's the least amount of people that had a favorable view of Disney. But then let's look at dislike. How strongly do someone dislike? Now, Trump, the people that dislike him are 37%. The people that dislike Brandon, Disney's point, is actually much higher at 49%. That's going to be interesting to remember for November. And then Disney comes in at 23% of respondents has an extremely unfavorable view of Disney, which is bad, very, very bad for a commercial company. What's even worse, and this goes to show how polarized they are, is that the people who are not sure if they have a positive or negative reaction to Disney is just 9%. That means that 91% of respondents, they know if they have a favorable and or unfavorable opinion of the Disney company. And far more people have a very unfavorable opinion than have a very favorable. This is not where any kind of commercial company wants to be. Mr. Chato, so experienced businessman, nuclear physicist, and all of the other things that you have done or dabbled in or almost do. What would you recommend a company like Disney do in a situation like this?
Well, they clearly not listen to me. First of all,
well, who knows? Maybe they'll give you a call or something. That'd be a call I'd be very interested in listening in on.
Well, to me, I'm an empiricist, so you need to be able to at least take a look at the stuff that was successful, and at the very least, go back and start duplicating what was successful. So then you can start collecting data based on some metric that is grounded in reality. Right now, they're all over the map. That's the problem, is that they can't measure anything because there's no mean average to be able to measure. They don't have a product line that they can then adjust up and down as needed. They're just, it's scattershot. You really don't know what's going on with them. That's, to me, coming from a science background, you really do have to reduce things down to something that is duplicable, repeatable, and then to be able to measure the results from that. That's the only thing I have to say.
Yeah, culture. How about you?
Disney's been dying by 1,000 paper cuts for a long time.
Mhm.
I mean, this is not. I mean, this is something we've been covering broadly everywhere on all of our channels. The lack of leadership and their recognition of all the issues that they've brought into their own company, and in the form of personnel, and obviously in the form of directives that are pretty much written by the people who are trying to force things. I mean, one of them being the Think man over at BlackRock. I think by adhering to all of that, they've literally undermined everything that used to make them money. They're no longer a family company. I've talked about that at length here many times before. They're
no longer maintaining the illusion that they're a family company.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah, and I mean, they don't know, they lost their identity, I think, right, Paul? Yeah. So, I mean, if I were going to point it out, I'd be like, this is a rudderless company, because they don't know who they are, and they don't know who they're for, and they don't recognize that they have a dwindling audience, because young people are no longer going to see them in a positive light, as their parents and grandparents don't take them to the theme parks, and don't take them to the movies, and don't have Disney Plus, and don't allow them to see Disney shows. Where's the future at? There's no future.
Well, we're in this weird place where these traditional organizations that have been taken over by progressivism don't like their existing market.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Progressivism was taken over by the regressives. Like, that's the thing. Like, progress as a word means to do better, to go forward, to move. Everything that Disney has done has only resulted in declines. So that doesn't make them a progressive movement. That makes them a literally regressive movement, posing as progressives. It's literally a wordplay joke that you'd see something from like Bud Abbott and Lou Costello do back in the day. It's really comical.
I just don't see, like I said, I don't see a good future for Disney in its current direction, and loss of identity is that reason. And I think that bringing back Iger was the biggest mistake they could have made.
Him never really truly leaving. That's the first one.
No, you're right, Script. You're right. I've been following the demise of Disney for a long time, and I mean, they're investing in an audience that has no future itself.
Well,
I
they
mean,
can't reproduce.
yeah, that's one of the problems, right? I mean, that's one of the
Correct me if
things.
I'm wrong. Did Chapek in fact greenlight Deadpool?
Yes, he did.
And it could be the only success for Disney in the
And
in the last.
if it is, then everybody on YouTube, myself included, is going to make videos about Chapek's success and Iger's failure. You know, because that'll be the only thing we can point to, or one of the few things we can point to that Chapek had any direct effect on.
Well,
Right?
and I said there's an awful lot of people at Disney who are hoping for the failure of Deadpool because they don't give a shit about the financial the health of the
Well,
company.
and Feige didn't even have Deadpool
He didn't want it.
interest
He
at heart,
really,
right?
yeah.
Like
He,
the
and
clear boat here was to sail towards Wolverine, and he's like, "You shouldn't do that. I don't want to do that. I don't think you should want to do that." You know, it's like, well, duh, that's stupid. And going back to your initial point, like yeah, you have a family company. Oh, God forbid you actually appeal to people who can have kids or want to have kids. That's kind of like why all these companies for years, for the better part of a century, regardless of knowing that, yes, there's more than Christian folk out there, would do their damnedest, though, to, you know, try to cater to the Bible Belt group and the Christians. Why? Because they actually have families. That's why. Not every other group has that guaranteed. That's one thing. That's why Disney always kind of was on that cusp of, you know, we're going to be that sanitized, not quite religious, but damn close to it, kind of stuff that
Puritan.
they release, right?
Yeah.
Puritan. Thank you for the word. I was trying to think of.
You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, we're going to be the single mother's theme park.
Yeah, Florida World or something. I don't get it.
Dad destination, you know.
Yeah, no dads allowed. Again, it's the weirdest thing that they're just not doing the simple things that, you know, dumb Hollywood would have done. With the success that they had with the Marvels, they should have been cranking out Iron Man, Black Panther, Captain America movies until they stopped being of any interest to anybody.
Well,
they should have squeezed that lemon until it was gone. I don't understand.
well,
we should be on like 24 Captain America, Thor, Iron
That's
Man
what I
movies.
said. They could have drugged this out another decade or more had they not fucked with the formula.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, and you know what? The formula works. Do you know why? Because the comic book readers enjoyed the formula. I mean, it's pretty easy.
Black Panther.
Look, all I know is that, you know, this article is basically leading us to the conclusion that when the parking lots at Walt Disney World are full of Subarus, the transition is complete.
Hey, watch it. We're a 3 Subaru family.
It's a nerd there.
Well,
But scroll down. Take a look at that cartoon.
Okay.
From what's it called? Makeup Boy from the Proud Family.
Oh.
How's that?
Scroll the article down. Yeah, this is how neo-Marxist this is.
This one here, you mean?
Yeah, yes. Look at that.
Yes. Yeah, Disney's indoctrinating your kids.
Yeah, I have to say this is very stunning, brave, and inclusive. I mean, why aren't parents flocking to Disney Plus with content like this?
And you know what's problematic about this is that I have
coming from an artistic background.
Is that this is not how they view themselves.
No, that kid right there is a huge nightmare just on its own. Get away from the colors. Just look at the silhouette and that.
I was just going to say it. From an art background, like you only show the belly like that if it's a villain, like a henchman.
Or a cute kid in a diaper and t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you never do it to an actual like heroic character or whatever. Somebody you're trying to glamorize.
Hey,
the character is also good for that as well. That like Homer Simpson type. Yeah.
But this is coding, kids. Coding.
They evidently
there's that word again.
Well,
I thought this was family. This was hilarious.
Oh, this is definitely not for families.
Well,
there's something.
Families. Modern families, people who are more tolerant than you.
All I know is when I used to get into my mom's makeup and give myself black eyes and shit, I'd get yelled at.
Yeah, it's probably expensive makeup.
You know, I
mean, you know, you're sitting there and like, we need to look like vampires, Mom. Well, not with my $80 makeup, you don't.
Or draw with an eyeliner pencil because you can't find your own pencil crayons.
No, I wouldn't do that, but Yeah, no, I mean, it's like, anyway, it's just silly. That was last week. You're right.
Well,
You are.
Tom does like to do cosplay. He's really good at it.
I
Well.
was Spider-Man when I was 5.
You were, eh?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, geez, what did I do when I was 5? I think I wanted to be a race car driver, which drove my mom nuts.
And then I was Superman for a while. Then I became Batman for a while. Then I was a Ninja Turtle.
I like turtles.
Oh, I forgot
And-
why I was a
And you
Ghostbuster.
haven't, and you haven't stopped.
No,
that's where it stopped.
no, I've
So,
been a
yeah.
Ninja Turtle ever since.
Yeah, it's going to be.
I'm
I guess part of the challenge is if someone decided that they were going to fix Disney's brand, is there any value in trying to go back to the old brand and actually re-engineer a new one that might be a combination of new and old? There is a certain danger in trying to go back when that has been abandoned because no one's going to trust you. It's very easy to lose a brand, very difficult to build it back up.
I would say that you have enough to work with there. You just have to be really, really selective and make it clear what you're going to keep and what you're not going to keep. And there's going to have to be content warnings aplenty. As for me, no, as for real, I mean it. I look forward
and
to
under
the
new
day-
management signs as well.
Yeah, under new management, in some ideal scenario, what you would do is you would actually release, make sure that all of the classics are released in their proper format, and the stuff which kind of like are part of a larger thing, like the stuff of the MCU, it's made, so it still needs to be there. But you need to have a content warning in front of the Marvels. You need a content warning in front of the internals. You need to be, there needs to be a content warning to let people know that this was made during a period when there was Marxist infiltration in the company, and as such, those influences are in the movies. Be on the lookout for those, but we still choose to release it here because it's part of the historical context and it happened. That's
funny.
the kind of content warning that needs to be on like every woke movie. You asked me.
In Budapest, there's a park where when they took down all the Soviet statuary, rather than destroy it, which other countries did, Hungary, in its infinite and wonderful humorous wisdom, the Hungarians are a very sarcastic people, ironic people. Rather than destroy the Soviet statuary, they put it into this park called Memento Park. And the fact that these statues originally were all out there on their own and were had a vista to Budapest, but now all these huge statues are crammed together. They're not meant to be, smashed together with a bunch of other statues. And that's kind of an insult to the statues themselves. So that's the sense of humor that you get from Hungarian. So you can, rather than destroying the statues, you can now go see the statues when the Soviet Union had ruled the country.
And I think that's a good thing because you can't change history. So,
correct.
But you can learn from it.
And you can make fun of it in subtle ways.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, what about trans history?
Well, we're waiting for that to happen.
Well, we can change it.
It has to become history first.
Yes.
We'll see how it's measures up.
Yeah. But on the Disney note, speaking of Marvel, because we were real heavy on this, did you guys hear that they had dropped the possible title for Agatha again, and then they deleted it?
Let me guess, it's still Agatha all along, which I have been mockingly referring to it as for months already.
No, actually, it was Agatha, the Lying Witch in the Great Wardrobe.
Oh my God.
Are you joking?
No.
Well, it's not.
I guess it dropped on their Twitter and then it got deleted right away.
I think this was an internal joke. I mean, seriously, none of Disney's audience knows what Narnia is.
You got a point
well,
there.
well, now hang on a moment. They released the most recent Chronicles films not that long
That's
ago.
true.
Yeah, but I just can't envision.
Well, Paul, if Disney cared the slightest what the audience think and what the audience knows, they wouldn't be in this particular state. Just have to throw that in there. Culture, you were saying.
No, I was just saying that the audience is very well aware of those films and C.S. Lewis. I mean, the problem is that it's very Christian oriented.
Well, I was just going to say that.
Yeah, Disney hates Christians. So
modern Disney hates Christians.
Yeah. See, and now we have to use qualifying words because of their misbehavior and their deviation from brand. Right?
Speaking of more deviation from brand, they are seeking a subpoena now to unmask whoever leaked America Brave New World stuff on Instagram. Did you guys see this?
Was that not McDonald's?
I don't know.
Are we referring to like the images of like Red Hulk and stuff?
I don't know. Marvel alleges let's read it and find out. Alleges an Instagram user illegally posted an image from unreleased Captain America Brave New World movie, and it has gone to court and has gone to court to try to make Instagram disclose the identity of the account's operator. Marvel filed a subpoena request on May 7th in U.S. District Court, California, Northern District in San Jose, asking the court order Instagram to identify the person or people behind Can We Get Some Toast? So remember this guy. Marvel alleged that the account published copyrighted image from an upcoming Marvel Studios motion picture, Captain America Brave New World, without authorization. Disney-owned studio is seeking subpoena to pursue the Digital Media Millennium Copyright Act. Yeah, I remember hearing he got pulled down. Now, which is funny because they had no problem with this guy because he was a shill for him most of the time.
But this is called publicity. I remember when the first Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man was coming out, and the frenzy over pictures of RDJ in the outfit, the movie being shot was insane. Now they're saying, "Oh, don't show a picture from the film because that's somehow going to hurt it." This is absurd. It's all it does is show that Disney is afraid that they've got a stinker and they don't want to convey that ahead of time.
We'll find out that
they do mention the McDonald's bit too here, but yeah, no, what the McDonald's thing was, I don't have an actual story on this, but I can almost guarantee you what happened there is Disney told them that the movie's being pushed again, and McDonald's was like, so?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, you got to change your schedule. And they're like, no. And that's about it. Because at this point, Disney has changed shit so many times on these people that McDonald's probably just told them to go F themselves because they're tired of changing their schedule. Because you got to remember, these schedules are all scheduled out like a while in advance. And that means that something else would have had to move for them. So they probably have a deal with something else next year at this time. And they're not going to move that. So that's basically why they just dropped this stuff now. This kind of reminds me of the whole Hasbro thing too. And some of the other stuff. Like this is becoming a common practice with Disney. Like that's another thing. I wonder, how long do you think before all the other companies keep putting up with this crap with them? Andrea and others. What do you guys think? I mean, this constant like changing of things at the last minute, moving stuff around.
I think they're fed up already, and we're seeing that with McDonald's now, because now they're like, you know what? We don't care about changing this because we know there's no money in it anyway. So what if the movie comes out next year? We've had multiple such special Happy Meal Marvel deals with you before for the last few years, and obviously there's no money in it for them. It's not worth it for them anymore. Because if it was, they would have changed this, but they don't care. They're not changing their schedule, and they do that only because they have no faith in it. They knew long enough ahead of time that this movie was being delayed, and they didn't care. That's the issue here. Well, that means that they now have data that shows that whatever they are paying Marvel, they're not getting back again. Of course, there's like, they probably sell the same amount of Happy Meals and stuff that they do anyway, but they don't sell any more. They
It's
don't
funny.
get a spike of people wanting to get that Marvel Happy Meal. And they did that obviously a few years back in time, but they no longer do. And that's why they don't care. You're going to have the same thing with Hasbro. There's like rumors that they're like thinking of scaling down tremendously. That's obviously in response to the Marvel and Star Wars output no longer delivering. And this is like the thing. Marvel and Disney, they have weighed tremendous power because there's people can't afford to say no to them. But now when everything is crumbling, why would you care when
You know what
there's
this
no longer
reminds me
money
of?
for them? Carry on.
This reminds me of the time period in the late 90s and early 2000s, because this is when I was working at Taco Bell. And this came down from corporate. I think I've told this before, but after the fiasco of the Star Wars prequels and Godzilla, that was when Taco Bell said they would never do a deal like that ever again. They got so screwed on those two deals because we were so inundated with stuff. We had so much crap we couldn't get rid of. Like for years, I was giving away Phantom Menace posters because we had so many of them. And and I can't remember the amount of money they paid George Lucas and Lucasfilm for the Star Wars deal, but Godzilla was the same thing too. They paid way too much for it. It was a big hit at first, but then, like you just said, Andre, I think they realized down the line they weren't selling any more, or at least not enough to make it worth the kind of money they were spending to get these kind of deals. And see,
Exactly.
McDonald's and Disney have had a good relationship for many, many years until more recently, right? Culture, I think recently it's been a bit more rocky of a relationship, but for the longest time, McDonald's was like the home of Disney everything.
Yeah, and Burger King had the Looney Tunes stuff, all the Warner Brothers
Yeah.
stuff. So yeah, but look, I mean, a lot of relationships have soured. I mean, not to the extent that they're at odds with each other, but there's no money. These licensing deals are killing companies. Look at what happened to Hasbro. So you're seeing a lot of these things just not work out for either party, and again, simultaneously for both, because, well, the poor decision making in the product they're producing. Taco Bell, McDonald's, whatever, they're not helped by a failed property that they have as part of a partner promotion. It doesn't help. So again, I mean, if I was working with a brand that was causing damage to me, I would not work with that brand anymore. I would immediately find a way either to dismiss the contract somehow, or beg out of it, or just fulfill the contract's minimum requirements and never sign another. Because if you're hurting your brand, you work hard on that. Paul just said a few moments ago, in the case of Disney, you can build up a brand, but rebuilding a brand, that's a whole other ballgame.
These things require such a lead time. It just shows utter disorganization on the part of Disney, not being able to fulfill their obligations. These companies used to be a really well-run machine. The movie came out, you got your Pixar characters in it, in at McDonald's. It was really tickety-boo. It was really, really a well-oiled machine. Not that there wasn't panic in the background as manufacturing had to be ramped up and things like that, but from those of us on this side of the stage, everything looked quite orderly. Now, one thing I wanted to mention with regards to something people mentioned Pixar and bloated budgets. I remember when my friend was working at Pixar, they needed another model for Toy Story 2 for the person who fixed toys. Do you remember the old guy that sewed Woody back together?
Yeah.
Okay, so they were at the crew that my friend was on. They needed a new character, and I can't remember Lasseter or whoever said it. They went, "We cannot afford to make another model." They actually used the old guy from one of the shorts.
Yep. I can't remember which one. Yep, but I know the story you're talking about.
Right.
Yep.
that was their solution. Someone actually said, no, we can't afford to generate another model, can't afford to generate another room, another building. And that, I think, was really, really, because you don't hear that anymore, right?
No,
It's just,
it's
oh, we're,
mostly throw money
very
at it.
little.
Well,
Very little of Pixar's early movies ended up on the cutting room floor as part of the editing process, because it was already pre-edited and they really could only afford the clips that they put into the movie to render.
Well,
Toy
and it
Story
al-
2 is the exception to that, but yeah, go ahead, Culture.
But
sorry.
it also made Lasseter a bit notorious. He was a very nice man, but very notorious for saying, "We're going the wrong direction. Stop.
Yep,
We're
start over."
starting again." Yeah, and that who does that? That's real leadership. Who says this isn't going to work? We need to restart.
And I asked my friend, did Lasseter ever insult or dress down anyone in the room when they were doing the oh God, the picture thingies, when they were what's it called, the storyboards?
Pitch.
The storyboards. Well, they
Yeah.
were
Oh, the
pitching all the time,
storyboards.
all the way through a movie, and he said never. He would be silent, and people would be scared to death of his silence. But at no time did he ever dress anybody down or belittle anyone. I
He
specifically
doesn't seem like the
asked him.
type, yeah.
No, it's not a question of being the type. I asked my friend who was in the room with Lasseter many, many times if that was the case. So,
Well, and that confirms what we were hearing before, and that was that this whole thing was orchestrated just to get him out because he had a bunch of young people who didn't know what they were doing and they didn't want to listen to some old guy instead of
opinion.
looking at it. Yeah, instead of looking at him as a veteran who'd been in the business, who invented this game, right? Like let's even go beyond the fact that he's just the best in the business. Lasseter is one of the guys that invented this shit, right? Like, I mean,
it's a certain class of young person. Because I get asked by a lot of people, including parents with children who want to get into certain kinds of show business, especially comedy, and they ring me up and they say, "Can you talk to our kid?" And there are sponges of the people who are sponges for new information, and really appreciative of the conversations that we're having. It's just these certain ideologues who aren't interested. And I think that's a small percentage. Unfortunately, they've gotten all the power in Hollywood. But the kids out there who are really interested, man, they are sponges for this information. So we shouldn't tar and feather everybody.
well, I'm talking about the ones that are just coming in and expecting to, climb the ladder without actually doing the work.
Yeah, well,
Right.
those are the people that they've chosen to hire. They've
Yeah.
they've specifically said, there's a checkbox for asshole. Oh, hey, look, it's checked off. We're going to hire them.
Well, and I don't know if maybe Disney has learned a little bit, or maybe in certain departments they have, because somebody pointed this out going off of what you just said about the whole Toy Story thing, about the reusing assets. A few people have noticed that not Lord of the Rings, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, they reused assets throughout the film because people have noticed that a bunch of the apes from the beginning of the movie pop up later on. And they're like, wait a minute, they should be long dead 300 years ago. They just reused the assets of Rocket and some of the other apes in later on in the fight scenes with all the crowd scenes. Yeah.
This clip was taken from Midnight's Edge in the Morning, which streams live every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 9 AM Pacific Time on the Midnight's Edge main channel. There you can send in your live questions and comments before clips and full stream replays are uploaded to Midnight's Edge live archives. We are also on Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey and Facebook, so smash that like, help share, subscribe and join us.